Welcome to another Saturday night and taking it to the nub. Tonight, we have Enrique Seijas on, who, by the way, is the second generation in the Matilde cigar family. And Matilde, if you didn't know, was founded over 146 years ago and then rebirthed by Enrique's father, Jose, I believe in 2014. But we're going to get into that in just a moment. Let me bring the crew in. We've got Enrique and we have my co-host, Quinton Brown, who is actually going to a cigar event on a boat in a little bit, although he looks like he's a Frenchman that jumped off a boat.
Oui, oui.
How do you say boat in French?
That's a great question. I'm not French.
I don't know.
I thought you were. I thought you were French.
Do I look?
You look fucking French. Look at that hat. Look at the hat.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a French hat, bro.
It's a French hat. It's got that French shirt on. He looks like he just jumped off the boat.
Actually, it's actually the shirt is kind of a Venetian shirt. You know, one of the gondoleros.
Oh yeah, it could be that too.
Yeah.
Maybe Italian.
Oh, I think that's your theme, right? It's finishing gondolero.
And you know you gotta have the Cuban links on. You gotta make sure if it is a cigar event, you've got to have your Cuban gold rope on.
Okay.
That's
I
good
hear you.
stuff. How you guys doing?
We're doing good, Enrique. Thank you for chiming in. I know it took us a little bit to get some technical kinks worked out between here and the Dominican, but I get it. Third world country or second world country, and building with.
I call it 2.5.
2.5. Yeah.
We're not in 3. We're 2.5.
I agree with that. I'll take that. What are you smoking?
Right now, I'm about to smoke the limited exposure number 2.
I heard that's a pretty good. I heard that's a pretty good cigar.
It does not suck. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. It's just as that cigar that you're smoking, right? That the Quadrada that you're smoking, which is a beautiful smoke. The limited exposure number 2 is our second release in the limited exposure series or program, and it's a beautiful medium body, just nice sweetness to it, clean smoke, kind of an everyday smoke with a lot of flavor to it, and I thought it'd be a good day to smoke one.
It would be, and we're going to talk about that a little bit because I know some guy that did a review on that just recently, and yeah, I think we hit the notes right.
I think I know somebody that did a review of that.
Yeah, I think it's
got a good palate. I can tell you that.
It's still hanging in there. That's all I can say after all these years of cigar smoking. Believe it or not.
Hey, Enrique, does he happen to take it to the nub?
I believe so, Quentin.
It was
I
close.
believe so, my friend.
But before we get too deep into the show, one of the things I always wanted to ask you about, and I've known you for years. We probably both got on the stage around the same time in 2014. But your logo, let me just pop your logo up for a second.
Logo.
All right.
Isn't that a beautiful logo?
It is. Explain the symbolism on your logo.
In order to be able to 100% explain it, I wish you would have asked me this before because I wouldn't send you another picture. As you mentioned initially,
sure picture.
The brand Matilde was founded in 1876 by Simeon Mencia, and the logo comes from his logo, not from his actual logo, but from the silver warranty. His silver warranty was an S, right, for Simeon, and then it had an M. And we like to believe the M was for Matilde or for Mencia. It had both meanings, right? So in our case, what we wanted to keep the S, and obviously we made the S as with tobacco leaves because that's what we deal, right? We work with tobacco, Dominican tobacco. We make cigars, so it all has to do with tobacco. So that's where the S comes in, and it has 2 meanings for us. It has Seijas, which is our last name, obviously, and then Simeon, which is the original founder from Matilde. And we wanted to give it a little bit more of a modern touch. And instead of putting the M, we wanted to place Matilde. So in this case, instead of having the S and the M, let's say Simeon, Mencia, Simeon, and Matilde, we did Seijas and Matilde, or Simeon and Matilde, and having Matilde in the middle. So this beautiful tobacco goddess is covered by our leaves and protected by our tobacco leaves. And that's why you see that, you know, she's kind of beautifully styled and sexy and covered by the leaves. Funny story, when we were creating the logo, the Matilde was a lot slender type of model type. And my brother says, wait, but we're Dominicans, and Dominican women, they're voluptuous. So there's curves. There's a lot of stuff going on with Dominican women. And he goes, look at my wife. And given it, the funny thing is that his wife is voluptuous, but she's a Lithuanian. But it's still kind of the same Dominican type of woman, right? Like, we need Matilde. We're gonna have Matilde in the middle, covered by the leaves. We need her to have those curves to represent Dominican Republic. So we had the initial logo modified a little bit to represent what we believe the Dominican woman would be. So that's where our logo comes from. It's a modernization of the seal of warranty of the original Matilde by Simeon Mencia, in a way where we kept the S and Matilde. Instead of having the M, we have Matilde.
And Matilde is a goddess of tobacco, or is you just say that? Is that
I can tell you, she is my goddess of tobacco.
she's your goddess?
That's all I can say.
Okay.
She's my goddess. She's my boss. She's my everything besides my wife and my kid.
All right. So there you go. So that now I got my answer I've been looking for the last how many years, since 2014.
It's funny. Not many people notice Matilde in the middle. They just notice the S, because when you're smoking the cigar, the ring is what we have in the gold foil is the S. And if you look at your cigar ring, the figure of Matilde, of the lady, is actually your
color of the ring.
It's the color of the band, and
right.
what makes it the figure is just very tiny details. So not many people notice it. You just see the S, and that's something they wanted to do. Because the idea is not having, like, you know, this woman like being present. You can see it in the logo because it's there, but it's saying, okay, this is S by Seijas and Matilde is right there, but it's covered, and that's what we wanted to do.
Now the company itself kind of was revived by your father, and your father, if I understand your story correct, was an industrial engineer. And being an engineer, I always love engineering stories where people in engineering paths find new paths to apply their skill and create things. So how did he go from engineer to owning a cigar company? Because I might want to do that.
It goes a little bit further. So my dad's an industrial engineer. My dad's personality is he's a very curious person. He's extremely passionate, and I would say obsessive, as an industrial engineer is. He's always obsessed in the process. He's always obsessed in knowing what he can do better, how he can increase the quality. And he graduated in 1974 from industrial engineering, and his first job was he was hired by, at that time, what was Consolidated Cigar Corporation, owned by Gulf and Western. Oh, you have a drink. I'm jealous. Gulf and Western, and his first job was not making cigars. It was actually working the stripping operation. Gulf and Western had in La Romana, where I was born and raised, and where Tabacalera de Garcia, which was a factory that my dad ended up being the VP of operations and master blender for, had a sorting and stripping and fermenting operation. And his first job was creating the loads and running the industrial engineering department for that. So process, and making sure the loads were correct and all that. And he built his way up to being the VP of operations of Tabacalera. And granted, he went through 7 mergers before he, like 3 years into his tenure into the company, he was moved to the Canary Islands. And the Canary Islands, that's where he actually started the manufacturing, which was a Tabacalera Insular. At that time, Tabacalera Insular, I think they did Monte Cruz and 2 other brands. I don't remember because I wasn't even born, right? And he was moved there. It was my mom, himself, and my sister. I have an older sister, which is about 7 years my senior. And she was a year and a half when they moved. And he moved, and that's where he actually experienced what manufacturing and the making of cigars was. And that factory was broken down and brought back into La Romana. And that factory was what became Tabacalera de Garcia. And that factory was where my father started in the cigar industry, started with the tobacco, and it was his only job. My dad, as I said, he's an obsessive and very passionate person, and he loved what he did, and he had an opportunity. And we don't come from tobacco people. My grandfather was a dentist and also a politician. So I come from a family of politicians, actually. My uncle was a governor. My uncle was a governor and a senator from my hometown. My grandfather was a mayor for a long time. So my dad's always seen helping people as one of his top priorities. He always says that for him to make a great cigar, you have 3 pillars. You have the people, which is what his values, like from his family. People, it's cigars is an art, right? So if you don't have people or those artisans that are happy making those cigars, you got nothing. You can have the best tobacco in the world and the best blend in the world. At the end of the game, that roller and that buncher are finishing that cigar and that blend. So it was people first, right? And then he had process. Well, that's where industrial engineering profession came in. He was obsessed with process. Something could be great. He said, no, we got to break it down. We're going to keep on with the process. I remember, and it was when I was young and when I was older, he had people filming the bunches and the rollers doing time series to see what he could change in that movement and try to see where they could make it a little bit quicker and a little bit better.
Did he lay out like process charts and everything and flow charts? And
yep,
I love them.
Process
love them
charts,
already.
flow charts. If you go to Tabacalera nowadays, they don't use chavetas. They use kind of a pizza rollers. Because during that process, you say, oh, we can adapt this to instead of using a chaveta, you use a pizza roller and it's smoother.
Yeah, and they don't use wooden board either. They don't use the wooden boards anymore. They use a metal board now.
So it was people, process, and obviously tobacco. And my dad was in his paradise. We used to make fun that we're 4 kids. It was my sister, which is the eldest, my brother, and then me. And obviously you have the factory, Tabacalera de Garcia. And that factory was his child. He was there from 74 up to he retired in 2011. He treated it as a child. He pampered it as a child because he loved it. He was passionate about it. He was passionate about the tobacco. He was passionate about making that perfect cigar. But he was even more passionate about being able to help people. And if you think about it, he was running the largest factory in the world, and he was helping anywhere between 3,500 to 5,000 people. Giving them a job, helping them with loans, or anything. And that's how we get into the cigar industry. It was sheer coincidence.
Yeah, but he retired in 2011. What made him come back out, decide to get back into this?
That's where I come in. I was born and raised into the industry. I was fortunate enough to be my father's son, right? So I rollerbladed in the factory. It was a great what do you call it? Polished cement factory. It was great for rollerblading. I saw cigars. I saw everything. It was a great experience. But I really didn't start smoking up until I was a little bit older, right? When I say a little bit older, I mean in the teens, like 17, 18, stuff like that, not like when I was a lot younger, right? And I had the opportunity to study in the States. I went did my degree in the States. Did my master's in the States, and I came back to work with my dad in the factory. And I love cigars, I love tobacco, but I had this illusion to work with my dad because I wanted to learn so much. He had so much to give, right? So I said, I'm going to start working with my dad. So I started working with my dad, and 2 years later, he goes and retires. He retires for about a year, right? And it was like, well, so what are we doing? And we say, okay, so let's get back into the cigar industry. For my dad, it was more kind of a retirement project or something so he can keep in the cigar industry. For me, it was a continual project. And if you see it, I've been the one that's been moving along with Matilde and with the brand. And basically, it started like that. It's like he didn't want to leave the industry at a full level, right? And I wanted to keep in the industry. And that's where Matilde comes in. So a lot of people use their last name. We couldn't because there's a Seijas signature out there. There's a lot of cigars with my dad's last name out there. We didn't own the trademark. And so if we couldn't pay homage directly to our name, we wanted to pay homage to the country. So a historian looked for different brands that were Dominican, that had Dominican roots, but were no longer there. And that's where Matilde came along. And we said, let's revive Matilde. So our first cigar in 2014, because this project started, my dad retired in 2011, the project started in 2012, and we launched in 2014. So the initial, the time frame, it's like, it's like you're giving birth. You know you're pregnant, but you see your baby 9 months later. Right. We knew we were starting a cigar company, but you see your baby 3 years later, right? Or 2 years later. And that's where Nasir comes in. The Nasir was a perfect name for our cigar. It was the rebirth of this brand Matilde, right? But it was also, if you think about it, the rebirth of my dad. Yeah. He went from managing thousands of employees, making millions of cigars, having millions of dollars of inventory, to working with 20 employees and having the inventory that we needed and being able to talk to his employees directly, not through managers, not through a supervisor, just directly, and showing his passion to those bunchers and rollers, which at the end of the game are the people that are making the cigar. You have tobacco, you have process, you have your blends, and then you have the people. If those people are passionate about making the cigar that they're rolling and bunching, your cigar is always, it should be great. It's an art. So that's what we get into the cigar industry. That's what Matilde starts.
Beautiful. Let me take a quick break and give a shout out to the sponsors for today's show. When we come back, I know Quinton's got some questions for you. So Quinton, when we come back in, you can ask some questions. So
Absolutely, Jim.
Today's show is proudly brought to you by
Get ready, because Drew Estate is back and better than ever. With a party so big that only the Lone Star State can contain it. Music, spirits, mouth-watering barbecue, cigars galore, and so much more. It'll be the most epic shindig there ever was. Barn Smoker presents Savage Feast, October 22nd at the Southport Ranch, Dallas, Texas. Get your tickets now at barnsmoker.com.
And yeah, you want to go to this Barn Smoker events this year. They are absolutely awesome. The Savage Feast is going to be spectacular. So check them out at barnsmoker.com. Today's show is also brought to you by Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova Cigars is a family-owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar. This results in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather to always remember him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So next time you're looking for an exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You can check them out at Platinum Nova Cigars at www.novacigar.com and on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Rodriguez Cigars, Key West. The year was 1971, and the Rodriguez family founded a new beginning on the beautiful island of Key West and established the Rodriguez Cigar Factory. This was only after many years, starting in 1947, when the family began the masterful art of cultivating tobacco on their private plantation in the town of Saguane, Cuba. They eventually had to leave, and they ended up in Key West. Founded in 1984, the Key West Cigar Factory stands as the oldest cigar manufacturer in the Florida Keys, preserving the historic cigar manufacturing industry that began in Key West in 1831. As the years passed, additional generations of the family members have expanded operations to Nicaragua, and they're proud to be working with some of the finest tobacco in the world. Rodriguez cigars are exclusively constructed with vintage leaves that have been hand-selected, aged, and constructed through the traditional cigar manufacturing process. If you ever get down to Key West, it is the one place you must see as a cigar smoker. And believe me, take the $15 cigar tour. You will appreciate it. You'll get a whole history of Key West and cigars, and you'll get to bunch and roll your own cigar as a memento to take home. Lastly, today's show is brought to you by the Cigar Clowns. The Cigar Clowns is a Facebook group that invite everybody to come along the journey with them to find the perfect cigar. And if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one of their limited releases, you know what's up. If you haven't had one, stay tuned to their page, and when a run drops, they'll go quickly. Good conversation, great people, and smoking cigars. They want to welcome all brothers and sisters of the leaf who share the same love as they do for cigars to go on that journey. So check them out on Facebook under Cigar Clowns. With that, we'll come back to Enrique, continue the show. So, Quinton just went offline.
I saw that.
All right, Quinton, your turn.
So Enrique, I know that you said that you came over here to the States to do your schooling. What schools did you attend over here?
I attended one school, RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. But I'm not an engineer. I'm business administration.
That's okay.
Okay, no worries, no worries. And so with that experience of coming from another country and then coming over here to do schooling, what do you think was the biggest takeaway in being able to come over here and do schooling versus just say if you had taken the traditional route and did schooling in the DR? What do you think that one of the biggest takeaways were in being able to come over here and get an education versus staying where you were?
Well, it's just basically the quality of education at that point. And RIT was a much higher quality university than where I was studying here in the Dominican Republic. So how everything starts is that I've been very fortunate in life, and that's something that I never quit saying. I'm being very fortunate because of my family, of my dad, and my dad's hard work, and my mother, right? And I've never taken a class. And then when I go to college, university here in the Dominican Republic, I start studying, and there's an exchange program. And within that exchange program was RIT. So how it worked was that I did my semester, or I did my semester here in Dominican Republic, and then I did summers at initially Ithaca, and then RIT. What I ended up noticing for myself is that I liked more the way, the methods of teaching that was getting from Rochester, which is more practical beings. I mean, I got my product management class was by the product manager for Heinz. My operations manager management class, the guy was teaching from his own book. So it was
Oh, wow.
it was a higher, and I was fortunate enough that I had the opportunity, and my dad gave me the opportunity to be able to transfer from the Dominican Republic from my university here, which is not bad at all. I'm not saying it's a bad university. It was just like a higher quality. It's like, you want to go to Harvard, you want to go to your college, right? Just different types of educations, and I had that opportunity to transfer to RIT Rochester, and I did. I had a scholarship, so I had a partial scholarship, and my dad was able to afford and pay actually the rest of my tuition and help me out when it came to that, and it was just a great opportunity to do. And the same thing when I came back and I did my master's, the same thing. I had partial scholarships, and I knew the university, and I just came back and did that.
How did you transition from the beautiful warm weather of the Dominican tropical climate to the snowy north of New York State?
I'm a positive person. I'm a glass half full kind of person. So one of my favorite sports is snowboarding. We had Bear Mountain and we had Bristol Mountain right there. They weren't really mountains, but they were, you know, they were the places where you can snowboard. So we had that. So instead of being outside, we had house parties. We were young, right? So we switched from the outside to the inside. And our university, or RIT, I don't know, I don't follow it right now, but we were a very good Division I hockey team.
Okay.
And I was never
Ooh.
exposed to hockey. RIT Tigers, and I was never exposed to hockey, but I had friends in the hockey team, and I started going. I was like, this shit is fucking awesome. I love it. And it's a great sport to see live. And I try to keep on watching it after I left RIT. Just not the same to see it live than it is to see it in TV. But I'm just a half, you know, you gotta see what you have, the positive things that you have in life. If I had friends that came from the Dominican Republic, and when it came to winter, they were miserable because it was fucking winter. I mean, and winters in Rochester are bad. I mean, they're mushy, it's cold, it's wet. I mean, there's no consistency, and it's gray. If you go up to the West Coast, your winters there are sunny. It's actually very happy winters. My university didn't have happy winters, but you see what you have, you see the cards that you're dealt with, and you play with them. So I had snowboarding, I had hockey, I had house parties, and we were there to study. And that's something that my parents taught me. Since I started, studying up until I finished, that was my responsibility. I had a job as a graduate assistant, and I had a job when I was a graduate, I had a job as a graduate assistant in the leadership department. And when I was an undergrad, I had a job at a photocopy. It was the photocopy place for the university. But I had it because I wanted to have extra money, not because I needed to pay for tuition or because I needed money for housing. I was fortunate enough that my parents were able to pay for that. And that was my only job. My only job was to get through school, learn, get good grades, and then move on in life, right? So that was my job. I did it. And you look at things and, it's winter. Well, it's winter. It is what it is. You can't do anything about it. Just enjoy what you have. You have friends, you enjoy it. You have a mountain, you go skiing. You light up a cigar, which I rarely do in winters. I'm a smoker that I like to smoke very comfortably. I tried smoking up in Colorado once in winter, and I was like, fuck this. I'm freezing.
Doesn't work.
I'm smoking like this. It's not enjoyable, right?
No, it's not.
So when I had the opportunity to light up a cigar, I would, and I just enjoy, man. I mean, if you look at negative things in life, you're about to just get depressed.
Were you the man on campus with cigars?
Yeah. I actually have a very good friend that he was not a smoker at the time, and now he's one of the biggest smokers that I know. And it's just basically, if somebody wanted to know about cigars, they would come to me or ask me. But yeah, that was the most knowledgeable person about cigars there, I would say.
There you go. I love it. So
how you get into this, Jimmy?
How did I get into what? What I do?
You said you got into I guess into Stogie Press in 2014. What got you into it? I know your wife is a great cook. That's what Melody told me. That I know.
You
I-
need to
you
come
have a
here.
palate.
You need to come here, and my wife will cook you whatever you want. That for sure. And Bellady is absolutely correct. He has raved about all the fine cooking that she does. My palate goes even before that. I mean, I just love food. But
Okay.
I've been smoking cigars since 1977, 78. Now, I won't say they were the best cigars in the world. They were the crappiest, shittiest cigars in the world. But they were still cigars. Never smoked cigarettes, so it was always something about cigars. Grandfather smoked cigars. My first wife's father smoked cigars. So it was always around me, and I was always indulging in it. And somewhere in 1990, in the 1990s, I was an engineering friend of mine. We were colleagues at working, and we came up with this concept of creating a print magazine here in Central Florida called Central Florida Cigar Smoke Magazine. And we did all the background on it. Wrote a bunch of articles. We had a advertising portfolio to show what we're going to do. We had some beautiful artwork that was provided to us by a fantastic artist out in California that did this cool cigar art as the cover of this advertising portfolio. We were ready. We dumped some money into it. And we said, okay, we're going to do this. It was going to be a free magazine. Everything was smoke friendly back then. You go to restaurants and shit like that. And we started to try to sell advertising, and we sucked at sales. We were no good at this, and nobody bid on this project. So to do a print magazine is impossible without backing. So we said, we're not going to dump more into this and then find out that it's going to be an epic failure. So we dropped the project. Life went on.
Yeah,
And my new wife, she's a graphic artist, an artist, marketing genius, and she's like, well, why don't you just create a website? And I'm like, okay, let's go create a website. So I came up with this name called spacecoastcigars.com, following the same concept of this regional thing. So we get this domain, and she creates the website. We start this thing, and it launches. Long story short, end up in a cigar shop up in Detroit, Michigan on a 3-month assignment, hanging out with Ryan Gallimore, who at that time was working at the cigar shop as a manager. If everybody knows who big Ryan Gallimore is. And he's like, why do you have a regional website? You travel all over the world. Websites are worldwide, Jimmy. WW. I said, you're right. So we sat down. We spent a whole Saturday. We found StogiePress.com. I said, there it is. That's the name. Looked at my wife. I said, I want you to go back to the hotel and take all that stuff you put on the other website, move it all over to this new domain, and we relaunched it. And that's when I ended up at the first IPCPCR and launched the site. And I didn't have any advertising, but I didn't need it because I had the ability to just keep pushing content out. And the content, if you go back on the site, it's all there. Some of the stuff I put out years ago was terrible just how it looked and felt. And
you can see your evolution.
And the whole evolution is on the site, right? So if you hit certain things,
beautiful.
You look at it, this is ugly. Why does it even look
what
like
the
this?
hell is this?
It was like, take a pictures with a phone, but it grew. And, Mike Bellady was my first sponsor, and I picked him up at in New Orleans at the show, and probably met you in New Orleans at that time. And it just took off, and I kept calling my old friend and saying, hey, you want in on this? This is our dream, right? Nah, I'm too busy. Nah, I got too much to do. Nah, I only smoke Cubans anyway. I'm like, okay, click.
He's fucking missing out.
I said, look, man, we could forget it. So the passion grew, and I just kept this thing going. And I'm grateful to the industry who has embraced a little guy like me to come in and do what I do, and they respect my passion, and that's the most important thing in this industry is have passion. Don't give up. Anybody that wants to get into this side of the business, I advise them all the time. Understand what you're doing. It takes perseverance. You're going to have days where you're going to be like, does anybody ever read the crap I put out?
You gotta have a purpose.
You know, but you have to push, you have to keep doing it, and people will recognize it. And over the last 8 years, going on 9, I'm grateful that, you know, the numbers have gone up year over year, and I'm happy. You know, I mean, it's, you know, it's not like buying me a mansion in Malibu, but I'll tell you what, it's fun. I have a lot of fun with this. I get to go to places, and meet cool people like you.
Appreciate it.
I get to have friendships with people like Quinton, and it's been awesome. And Quinton coming on to do the show with me is a great co-host, and he's going to ask you another hard question.
Listen, Jimmie, you guys are. I'm enjoying it, man. Sometimes I sit back and I just have to listen more than I talk. So this is one of those examples where I'm just gonna listen.
No, you're going to ask another question.
Well,
My throat's dry.
Wait, Quinton, you're about to
So-
give me shit. You want to give me shit anymore? You gonna put me in
No.
the hot seat? That's what you're gonna do?
I mean, other than what was y'all's mascot for RTI? You said you got into hockey up there. Do you remember what the mascot
RIT,
was?
Tiger. The Tiger.
Oh, the Tigers. Okay.
RIT Tigers. There's a huge tiger in the hallways of walking. There's a huge bronze tiger. I remember when I got to RIT, that was the first thing I saw. I was walking, you know, with my small suitcase. This freaking Dominican, you know. I had been traveled before. It's not like it's my first time in the States, right? But I was walking and I'm walking like trying to find the dorms and all that, and I see this huge tiger. I'm like, "Wow, this is awesome!" And it was just, you know, it's a huge campus. It's just a different experience for me. But it was the Tigers.
I consideed RIT
RIT
for
Tigers. Go
engineering.
Tigers.
I considered them for engineering when I was going to school, when I was picking colleges, but I ended up at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, which
I think that at the time I was studying there, they were like in the top engineering universities in the States.
absolutely, yeah.
Like, I don't know if it was top 10 or top 20, but they're right there up in the tops. I remember that.
I had a cousin that graduated there, and then he went upstate, got a job. I forget who he worked for, and he kind of became a recluse.
They had photography. They had the Eastman Kodak building.
Yes, because they had
It's from
Kodak, was
Rochester.
big
Yep.
backer of them.
And they are, if I'm not mistaken, the second largest hearing impaired university in the country.
There you go.
Wow.
Anyway,
Did you belong
More
to a
about
fraternity?
cigars.
Did you belong to a fraternity when you were up
it
there?
was it was my own fraternity. We
It
had
was
our own group.
your-
We were the large group of Latin Americans. So we were a group of about 20 Latin Americans, and we had our own parties, went out together. We had a lot of friends in fraternities, so we had the access to fraternities, but we had our own stuff. We had our house parties. In our culture, we believed in open bars. So when instead of going out and having like bring your own stuff, like bring your own booze to parties and colleges, we just 20 guys got together. You put in $50 each, and we just had the party as an open bar. So that was like our signature thing when we were out. It was just
Now,
let's just have a party.
did you have an opportunity over your time at Rochester to go down to New York City and indulge in the cigar culture down there at all?
I didn't go that much. I didn't travel that much when I was in RIT.
Okay.
I did travel. I did go back to the city once in a while, but it wasn't that much of it was just partying. I was a kid partying, honestly.
So you went home, you got a master's degree, you go home, and at this point, is you and your dad starting a company? Is he how did
I start out with my dad at Tabacalera de Garcia. At that point, it was Alpidus. It wasn't Imperial. So I started with my dad in Tabacalera de Garcia, and even though I knew all the processes because I lived all the processes since I was a kid, the first thing my dad tells me is you're not doing anything up until you go through every single process.
Good for
Period.
him.
Yeah, and that's what I did. My first year working my dad, first year and a half working my dad, I started at the tobacco sorting. I did it. They still have a Connecticut broadleaf sorting operation. That was where I went for the first time. So Connecticut broadleaf sorting operation. So I know what everything was going on there. Then I moved to Santiago and I went to the tobacco field in Santiago. And then I did the stripping for about a month. So I did stripping operations, selection operations, and all that. So I can get a little bit more into that. And then after that, I moved to Mexico, and I had the opportunity, the beautiful opportunity to live and work with the Turin family in
Wow.
San Andres. So I did that for about 3 months. I lived in Catemaco.
So
In
you
San
worked the
Andres Tuxtlas.
farms? Did you work the
I
fields?
I didn't work the fields by itself, but I went with los agrónomos. What do you call it? Agrónomos is what do you call it, guys who play that work with plants? Agrónomos. Well, my English went to shit. Look at that RIT right there.
The farmers?
Well, the farmers know. Well, the engineers, the farmers and engineers who went
Oh,
in,
you're
we
talking
explained
about
everything.
the horticulturists.
Horticulture, yeah. So I went out around with them, and besides that, we did the fermentation. So I was there with Beto Tupren, and I went through the fermentations with them every day. So I did his whole process for about 3 months just to get a little bit more of of everything. After that, I came back to La Romana, to my hometown. I thought I was gotta get into it, and my dad said, "No, you're not. You're gonna roll in a bunch of cigars." So I sat down. I had a great teacher. I went to the rolling and punching cigars of Tabacalera de Garcia. And I did that for about 2 months. I bunched for a month. I rolled for a month. That was my job. I did that for half a day. And the other half a day, I did special projects for my dad. May it be, you remember I told you that he was a perfectionist and he wanted to see if he could do everything perfectly. So I even went into sitting down with a team and measuring every single leaf and weighing every single leaf to see if that proportions that they were using were the proportions that were supposed to be used, to see how exact it was, right? It was
But he
pretty
got
exact,
to
I
that
can tell you
level.
that.
He got to that level of when you
He
are
did.
going to build and construct a cigar, that the leaves all had to have a certain weight that you're putting into that fill and into that binder, that there was not just
It
the
was,
cigar at the end, but each of the different blend leaves.
yeah, how it worked is that you have your blend, right? And then you do your pre-blend mix. And the pre-blend mix came in a box, and it had a box that has 5 compartments, right? And those 5 compartments, it was a 3-3 blend. That means that it's a third, a third, a third of each tobaccos, and the boxes were 2 pounds. So in each box there were 2 pounds of tobacco. So the bunchers would receive the box with the perfect proportion, and all they needed to do was going one, none, none. I just move it around. So that was part of the engineering process, saying how can we make this? How can we streamline this? I used to call the factory industrialized art, because it was still an art form. They were making cigars, they were manufacturing cigars as an art form, but they had pneumatic presses. They had the processes down to the nut where it could keep that consistency. At the end of the game, if we get compared a lot to wine, I always say this, but we don't work with vintages. We work with blends. And I mean, our Renacera has to taste the same, now that it was in 2004. They're very similar. Same thing with our Serena, same thing with our Oscura, same thing with our Quadrada. And the only way you get that is with consistency. And that's where you get the processes. So he was all about that. And it came to a point where he just wanted to do things to make sure, just to measure. And a lot of times it was very accurate. A lot of times it wasn't. And so I had the opportunity when I started, I was working what was a factory wise, but I also had the opportunity to get intake from my dad and how he thought. He was a work generator. He always had ideas. His first his first thing of the day was having a meeting with all his managers. So where are we? Blah blah blah. And we just created work and seeing what we could do, what we could get better, test cigars, and then go back to the day to day, right? And that's what I did for the first year and a half. Then after that, I moved to Miami and I did sales in Miami. I was actually the sales representative for Altis in the Miami area, the Florida area for about 6 months. And when that came in, after that, I came back. I started working with my dad at the factory, and about 8 months later, he retires. Then, everything, this process was going well, the merger or the buyout, actually, the buying from Imperial came in. And then after that, he retires, and that's where Matilde comes in.
So in that whole process of processes, what was the most eye-opening process that you had hands on? I mean, what was the one that really hit you like, God, I didn't realize this?
How fucking hard it is to roll a cigar. And for me, there's a lot of things that you see in cigars, and a lot of things that are eye-opening. And one of the things that a lot of people don't see in the cigar industry is there's a lot of specialization in the factory. Saying let's say when the Connecticut crop came in, the leaves are divided by colors. And the ladies that were usually they're ladies that they're sorting the leaves, they're putting like, okay, there's a yellow, light yellow, brown, dark brown. They're pop, 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 pop. And then you look at this fucking, this guy, and I'm like, might this be light yellow or normal yellow? And it's that specialization, which, and here's the thing, you already know it. I already knew it. I was born and raised into it, and I've been in my dad's shadow or area for all my life, right? But once you go in and you do it yourself, that's when you see, wow, this specialization, the buncher, the way they take the loads and they take their tobacco, and they're talking. I mean, as we're doing right now, they're smoking a cigar, they're talking, they're putting their tobacco, whatever. They're making their bunch, right? And I do that, and I pass it to my teacher at the time. He's like, nope. And he just grabs it, right? No, there's a soft spot right here. You got to do this. You got to put it. I was like, oh, this is perfect for me. I mean, what are you talking about? And then you come with the rollers. People are putting a wrapper on, and they're talking like, no, and they're just putting their thing on top. And I'm like, so, and that's what you see. There's so much specialization in our industry when it comes to the tobacco growing, the fermentation, to all the processes. It's all specialization, right? And people see and they look at it and they see that say it's an easy task. It's not an easy task. It's a very hard task. It's a very laborious task. These people that make it seem easy, they've been doing it for years. Yep. It's like that, the story about Picasso? Well, it says, oh, you're Picasso, right? He's in the cafeteria, you're Picasso. And the woman says, I go, can I get a drawing from you? And he, he makes a drawing, like, can I keep it? He's like, it's going to cost you, $50,000. He's like, but it just took you 5 minutes to do that. He's like, no, it's taking me 20 years to get to do it in 5 minutes. So it's the same thing. In the cigar industry, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter in what part of the process you are. People that are doing it make it seem easy. They make it seem it flows because they've been doing it for so long. They're passionate about it and just keep on doing it. That's what makes it easy. I gave a lot of tours. And we've always had an open people policy. My dad, when he was in Tabacalera, I had an open people policy. When I come in, he would come in. My dad was blending something. I have stories from friends that say, I came to visit you and your dad was blending something. The first thing he gives me is like, here, try this out. And I don't know. He's like, okay. He's like, oh, I'm blending something. Give me your opinion. He was that kind of person, right? He wanted his opinion. He wanted to know. He was very inclusive, right? And And that's what you get. I mean, that's what you get there in our industry. That is our industry.
Right. So,
Right.
so
And
you go.
what the tours, what going back to the tours, what I got a lot from the tours is that, let's say you, Jimmie, come in, right? And you've never seen a cigar factory before. And then Quinton is your friend who doesn't smoke cigars, right? And usually the tours were given by either my brother, myself, or my dad, or something, somebody that's passionate about it and that loves what he's doing, right? Go around, we tell them the whole process about quality control goes, and people come out saying, well, all cigars should be $50. I mean, how much hands, 300 hands, 500 hands go within making the cigar.
Right.
Then you have the age, they should be $50. And people that don't smoke cigars, they say, oh, now I get it. It's an industry, but it's not something that's machine made. It's not cigarettes. No, it's art.
It's art.
It's beautiful.
Craft,
it's different. We are different. It's craft.
science.
We're different. We're passion.
Exactly.
It's an art form. It's an art form that has become an industry, but it's never changed. We have tools. We have the Tinsco machine. We have the pizza rollers. We have the chevetas. But at the end of the game, it's a person with his hands making a cigar.
That's right. Now, talking about making cigars, your company, you had the Serena, the Rencia, the Quadrata, the Escura. You've had that for a number of years. You, over the pandemic and all of that, things, you didn't see a lot of new things coming out of Matilde. And then recently you came out with the limited exposure. You came out with the number 1, then you came out with the number 2 just now, and I will get into that review in a moment. And I guess you got a number 3 coming. What was this drive now in this limited? Because these are limited numbers, so you kind of went into a limited production mode. And some consumers like, why limited? Why not make it all the time? So why limited exposure?
So here's what the limited exposure project is. We divide our portfolio by core, and in this case, limited exposure, right? Our core lines, as what you mentioned, you have your Serenas, you have your Renaceres, you have your Escuras, you have your Quadrata. I wanted to create a project. I believe a lot in consistency and the blends, and able to do that. You can't start making stuff all the time, right? And I was looking for a way where we can have something that would be limited, but would be known to people. And that's how the limited exposure project comes in. So how the concept of the limited exposure project is that you're going to have 3 blends at the end of the maturity of the project. And they're developed and focused around our trade shows. So in essence, there's going to be a blend or one of the blends coming out every 6 months, right? So when you have this rotation at the maturity of the limited exposure project, you're going to see blend number 2 now, let's say, for example, and then you won't see it again for 18 months.
Okay.
So how we do the production is that we make an amount of cigars where they will be in the market, but we want to make sure they sell out. So they're not available anymore. And that's when our limited exposure number 1 comes in, or number 2 or number 3. So it keeps that rotation of maybe something new coming out. Like, for example, this year, we're not coming out for PCA. We're not coming out with limited exposure number 3. We're actually coming out with limited exposure number 1. So we had number 1, number 2, and now number 1's coming back with the Toro, which is original size, and a lawn sale size.
Oh, okay.
So the next production will be the number 2, and it'll keep on developing. Then after that's going to become the number 3. So every time we develop or we come out with the limited exposure or a different batch production of that number of limited exposure, it will come out with a new size or something different, but the same blend. Saying, Jimmie, that if you love the limited exposure number 1, you don't have to buy a whole bunch of it, because you'll be able to smoke it again in a year and a half.
So
My what I'm trying to do is I don't want my stores to, or my business partners, or my retail partners, or my consumers to feel like they have to buy 100 boxes because they won't get it again.
right.
They buy it just enough amount of boxes where it will feed their market, but they know will come back later on. And I think it's just a better way to build a brand organically
Now
than having you buy 100 boxes and then saying, well, I still have 50 boxes, I still have 25 boxes. So,
now
I
you
think it
built
was a,
this. You built the limited exposure obviously during the pandemic. Okay, because you had time in there. Let me ask you this question. Um, were they aged longer because of the pandemic? The one and maybe even the two, okay, that you came out with because you weren't shipping them quite yet? I mean, did they have more age in the aging room on those?
no, we usually use tobacco that's what's aged already. And
Okay.
then we make the cigars and we smoke them. And when we believe they're ready to go out into the market, we release them into the market.
So
It
what's the
might
average
be,
age? What's the average age out of the aging room?
so the minimum is 3 months, and then
Okay.
after that, like for LE number 2, it was about 6 months. For this
Yeah.
production of LE number 1, the production has been aging for about 5 months. And
Okay.
that's another cool thing that limited exposure gives us, because they're not huge quantities of cigars. I can actually say, I'm gonna age it for a year. Doesn't really
Okay.
matter. You can just keep on moving with it.
So let me go take another quick little break. I'm going to go through what's new in news and reviews on Stogie Press, and of course, we'll talk about the limited exposure number 2 in this segment. So we came out with had 3 reviews this week that we came out with. The first one is Maya Selva. So Maya Selva has expanded their Campai line to include a Lancero. So this Lancero is now going on the market. This one came in at a 92. It's a Nicaraguan Puro, so it's got a Jalapa wrapper, an Esteli binder, and it's got a number of different regions in the filler. And the flavor notes on this were pretty nice. I mean, I was getting caramel, dark chocolate, hazelnut, which I don't always get, some natural sweetness, pepper spice, and a nice syrupy aroma that was burning off the foot. This is an $18 Lancero. Overall, very nice cigar, nicely rolled and bunched, had a decent ash on it. It did drop quite a little bit more than I would like, but it's a Lancero, so that's going to happen. The overall on this had a little bit of a wave, and I would check another one out. I think the price point on this at $18 is pretty steep, considering what's on the market for 18. But other than that, definitely a worthy cigar. The second one we looked at was your limited exposure number 2
That's a
Toro.
beautiful cigar. Look at that. Look at that
mean,
ring. That
just
beautiful purple and gold.
that thing pops. Okay, that absolutely pops. You see that on a shelf, the eyeball's gonna hit that right away.
Here's a funny thing with the color palettes. They all come from fauna and flora from the Dominican Republic. That's actually the color of a campana flower. The limit exposure number 1 was an orchid from the Dominican Republic. So we take the palettes from our flora and fauna just to keep it a little bit
I
Dominican.
love that. That is
Appreciate it.
information. Quentin, we got something here that may be a Stogie Press first to be told. So, comes from flora, the colors. That's beautiful. So this one here is a 1050 cigar, comes in boxes of 20. This is an Ecuadorian Corojo with Dominican binders and fillers. And I was getting on this some cedar, citrus, dark chocolate notes, earthiness, espresso came in on it, some fruit, pepper, and definite raisin and spice. And I love the raisin spice combination. It just, my palate just enjoys that kind of a mix. Overall, very nice cigar, beautifully constructed, very nice ash on it.
Look at that burn.
That burn was nice. Comes down. It's got a little bit of a jag, but hey, you know what? Cleaned itself up here. You're a little jag there, not a problem.
Only God is perfect, my friend. Only God is
No,
perfect.
no, but being honest to my system of how I rate cigars, flavor wise, spectacular. Things that here, I would just say that, you know, you had a little mild jagged burn here and there, and it did have a flat but scented burn cone. I always make sure that's clear. You know, so I like cigars. You get that
Like your
extra
cone?
point with not a point, get that nice rosebud or strawberry bud looking foot, you know. And then definitely this is a box buy in my book. It was complex and it was very well balanced all the way through.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
sir.
I could smoke more of these all day long. All right. And then lastly, we took a look at a cigar called Didier. Now, Didier cigars is something that I never heard of this cigar. I was introduced to this cigar by Erica Everett from Executive Cigars in Sanford, Florida. I presented them their Cigar Lounge of the Year award, and she says, "You got to try this cigar." She was all about this. You got to try this cigar. So I said, "Okay." It's an oily, beautiful, oily wrapper on this. Um, the story behind this is this is a brand that I don't think a lot of people know about. And it's an international brand more than before it was even a US brand. So it's one of those cigars that came in. It's founded by a gentleman named Didier Lazare Benita. And he was born in France, has been in Miami for 20 years. And he just started building his cigars in 2016, and he's been growing it internationally ever since. So this cigar is a San Andreas Mexican wrapper, which is one of my jams. It's got a Habano 2000 binder with an Esteli and Nicaraguan filler. It only comes in a 6x60 Toro. It is a $23 cigar. So this is not an inexpensive cigar, but the pleasure you get out of this cigar, I mean, it has this little jag and a little bit of off burn, but it cleaned up. And look at the ash on this thing. I mean, you kidding me? On a Gordo, look at this thing, man. It's beautiful, beautiful ash. It's a little offset burn cone. Other than that, I'd say hour 50-minute smoke, absolutely fabulous cigar. Check these out. I would say, you know, maybe you can't afford a box, a 5-pack may be good. There are some others in the line I've learned, so I have to try some of the other ones. In cigar news, as we continue pushing towards PCA, there are a tremendous number of releases. I'm not going to go into all the details of everything. We'll just shout it out real quick. Rockefeller Cigars, our friend Kevin Schweitzer from Rockefeller has announced that he's expanded his Habano to a Nicaraguan Habano Lonsdale. And this is, I understand, for those that have smoked it, I have not had this one yet. This is a great expression of that blend. Everybody's been raving about it that I have spoken to that smoked it. So I'm looking forward to that one. Foundation Cigars is continuing to come out with new announcements of what they're coming out with. This week, they came out with the announcement that they've again collaborated with Highclere Castle. And Highclere Castle, they're coming out with the Centillar. And I probably said that wrong, but this is celebration of the 5th Earl of Carnarvon in Highclere Castle, who was celebrating the finding of the King Tut's tomb. All right. So this is a beautiful looking cigar. It comes in this this box that looks like this is like they went all out with their design on this. They are using some very excellent tobaccos in this. They have a 7th priming Habano Ecuadorian wrapper. They have a Brazilian Matafina binder, and they've got filler tobaccos, they say, that are aged 3 years minimum, with unique lots, especially for this blend. So they went very deep in this. This is probably one of the most expensive cigars currently on the market. This is at $33 it's coming in at. or $396 for a 12 count box. But you get this cool box with it. So
It's a
very
beautiful box, and
interesting
I'm sure
looking
it's a
stuff.
great cigar too.
Man, Nick, I love Nick. Nick is he's an ace at what he does. Lampere announced that they coming out with the 1593 Edición Blanca pre-release. So they're doing a pre-release with small batch cigars only right now, and then next year they're going to roll it out to the whole market. So they have a great relationship with small batch cigars. So they wanted to celebrate that relationship, and they're giving it to them first. You'll be able to get these through small batch. Crown Heads is also hitting the market with a lot of things. They've also announced their limited edition Patissier. This is going to be at PCA. Diesel announced their fifth Sunday Gravy expression. So you can check that one out. This this cigar here is, if I'm not mistaken, is $4.99.
Price point. Good
So,
price point.
so this is called the grappa. And those of you that are Italian know what grappa is. It's that beautiful drink you have after your food. $4.99. They're going to be hitting these nationally in July through September of this year, or until this blend is sold out. It's distributed by Forge Cigar Company. Ecuadorian Habano, Nicaraguan binders, and Honduran fillers. So they reached into their bucket and threw a lot into this. Fratello announced they've been working. They actually worked this with Kevin Shahan from Cigar Prop. They announced what's called the Vice Versa. Now, the Vice Versa is a cigar that is designed to be smoked from either end. I did make a note in here that it's not the first time this has been done. In fact, one of the Stogie Press sponsors, Tobacco Trading Company, and Patrick Potter, he came out with one a couple years back called the Trifecta, which was a double-ended Perfecto. And in his, he actually has two different wrappers on it. The band is in the middle, and you can smoke it from either side. You get a completely different expression depending upon which way you smoke it. And he actually markets them in 2-packs because you do want to try it from either side. So great marketing technique for them. But the Vice Versa is capped on both sides, and you can smoke this from either direction. This is coming out at $15 a cigar with a Habano Ecuador HVA wrapper, an Indonesian binder, and a pretty bold filler of Pennsylvania, Nicaraguan Esteli, and Nicaraguan Condega. So you could check that out. They're making those down at L'Aurora. Black Star Line announced that they're returning the Connecticut Warwitch Robusto, and they're debuting the Dark Warwitch Robusto. And Macanudo is announced the limited edition Inspirado Jameo. And it's a nice looking cigar. Okay. I mean, pitches, this is their marketing pitches, but what I see, this is a nice looking cigar. It's got a Honduran binder and fillers from Honduras, Nicaragua, and Dominican Republic. This is an interesting looking cigar. It comes in two different Vitolas, a Toro and a Churchill, and they're running between about $10 to $11 a piece. So if you're a big Macanudo fan, there's something on the market there for you again this year. Drew Estate announced that Liga Privada 10 Adversario Connecticut Criollo distribution has started. And that's it. That's the news for the week. So it's a lot of news every time we get towards, we get towards PCA.
Well, it's PCA. That's what I'm about to say. It's PCA.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be tons of news coming out. That's the news for the week.
That's correct, my friend.
So I think Quinton might have dropped off because he is going to this event in Chicago. He's going on a boat, a cigar and whiskey boat tour around, I guess, down the Chicago River or something. I don't know.
Not a bad thing, my friend.
I've done that. It's a fun thing. So let's get into what we normally do is a lightning round. And usually I love Quinton here because this is where Quinton asks the good questions, but he's not with us at this moment. So I'll just run it with you for a moment. What is your music genre? What do you really love? What drives your soul? What do you
It
dance
depends on
to?
depends on the mood. It can either be classical, it can be rock, it could be. I was listening to Prince on the way here. I love Led Zeppelin, so I love classic rock. Dave Matthews Band is a band that I love very much. I love salsa, merengue, bachata. I love to listen to it and dancing to it. So it just depends on, for me, it depends on the mood. I mean, if you look at my playlist, it goes from, from Pavarotti, Andrea Bocelli to
Yeah.
Angra.
You like Led Zeppelin, you said, huh?
I love Led Zeppelin.
What's your favorite
I think,
song? I'll
what's
tell
my
you
favorite
mine
song
when you
from Led
tell me
Zeppelin?
yours.
You'll tell me mine, we'll tell you yours. I'm a I think Heartbreaker or Stairway to Heaven would be right up
Okay.
there.
Mine is the Lemon Song. 6
Good song.
minutes, 6 minutes of just soulful, bluesy riffs that take you through crescendos and bring you up and take you around a curve. And it's
Whole
just
bunch
a
of emotions.
journey, man. It's just a journey of
Uh,
musical talent. I love that song. I can listen to that over and over again. So
I'm
you
actually gonna put it
never
on.
played hockey. What
No.
is your favorite today? What is your favorite sport to watch?
I gravitate towards tennis. I love
Okay.
tennis. Any racket sports. I played tennis when I was younger. I played squash tennis. As I said, still snowboarding is one of my favorite sports. I don't skate, but I do snowboarding when I can once in a while. Paddle boarding is something that I love to do on the beach. Not hardcore surfing, paddleboarding, but just going around the beach with a paddle. It's just nice and relaxing.
Do you
And
watch tennis?
I don't follow. The only sport I follow actually is F1. Is because of my wife. I actually sit down on Sundays and follow. I really don't follow sports in that way. I watch it. I like to watch it, but I won't, say, oh, it's Roland Garros. I have to sit down and watch it. I like to play. I'm more of, let's do it type of person.
Do you like board games?
No,
Other than dominoes? Do you like dominoes?
no. Actually, I'm a crappy domino player. I like to play it, but nobody wants to play with me because I suck at it. I'm more of a sit down, and we have a house in Jarabacoa and the mountains, and I like to sit down in my rocking chair, smoke a cigar, have a drink, and talk shit. That's my favorite sport. Just relax and enjoy with people. Tennis, I love it because I played it all my life, and I think it's just a great sport all around. And I've been doing boxing, but just as a training, that's like my release.
Right.
I do boxing once or twice a week, and it's just a release.
Yeah, I do
Just,
taekwondo 3 days a week.
Exactly.
I have the same thing. It's a release. It keeps your body toned. And it just
Not a boxer.
You burn a lot of calories.
Exactly. I'm not a boxer. I like Tony Gomez. He likes to get on the ring, likes to spar. I don't spar. I just, go there and start being, I got somebody and I just start punching out. It's just a great way to release steam.
Now, do you have a favorite movie that you've watched lately?
What was that movie I watched? I really love Top Gun.
No, did you see Top Gun? I haven't seen it yet.
That was a great movie, and
how'd you compare it to the original?
It's a sequel. I mean, Tom Cruise is not the top. He is a Top Gun, but he's like the instructor. Well, I don't want to ruin it for you.
He said he was going to be the instructor. When he left, he became an instructor.
Exactly. So, but it's a sequel, so it's a great thing. It's not like they were reproducing the old Top Gun. It's just there, and it's freaking cool that they use the actual planes. So, when they were filming the movies in the actual planes, so the G-force could see it.
What are they using in the planes? What planes are they using this time?
I don't know.
They're not F-14. They're not F-14s anymore, right?
I don't know.
But it's still a Navy jet. It's still a Navy thing, right? So
yeah. Apparently, Tom Cruise and my friend, my best friend is a pilot, and he told me I didn't know Tom Cruise was a pilot. He's like, you can't fake the G-force. So it
Right.
has to be filmed on a plane so it can be realistic, which is pretty cool. I mean, it was a great movie, and I love Doctor Strange.
Ah, I saw that. That was.
So it's
And
like
did,
from here to here, you know.
it,
But
did you sit through? Did you sit all the way through the credits, or did you
uh,
leave before the complete movie was over?
I think we sat through the credits. My wife always Googles it, and I think we sat through the credits. Yeah.
Because there's two nuggets in the
Yep.
credits. And I sat in that movie theater and I watched people leave as the credits were coming out. I said, who are these people that are watching a Marvel movie and are leaving before the credits are over? It didn't
Makes no
make
sense.
any
You always,
sense.
I mean, you have a fucking cell phone. You go, or there, you know, you're gonna see something in
They're
the credits.
they're
You're gonna stay.
always there. It's a Marvel movie. It's part of
Exactly.
the franchise. You have to watch the whole thing. And
Exactly.
and when you do watch it, what always amazes me with movies like that is if you go back and you look at like a 1940s movie, right? And you look at the credits, it's like done, you know, 5 actors, 10 supporting actors and actresses, a music guy, and, and
The
a
credits are
wardrobe
as
guy.
long as the movie.
You know, now you look at these credits and you're like going, there's
They're as
like
long as the movie.
a shitload of
I
people
know.
that are involved in making that, like in Doctor Strange. I mean, it's just like,
Well, they're a lot more complex. I mean, you got, you got the people, then you got the all the technology going around. You got the green screens, and you got all this going on.
yeah,
It's just a lot more going on.
multiple, and you have multiple sites and I mean, it's just God, man,
Yeah.
and you wonder why it costs $1 billion to make a movie. You know, it's like you got to pay
Well,
all
they
these
make a
people.
gazillion, so it's okay. Hey,
That's it.
if it's making more than it's spending, it's all good.
So you get to travel around doing your business. Um, what is your favorite place to go on? Let me restate that. If you were to go anywhere in the world on vacation, whether you've been there already or you want to go, where would it be?
My wife hates me for this because I travel so much for work that my favorite place for vacation is about 2 hours away. And the cabin, we have a cabin up in the mountains in Jarabacoa. It's a beautiful view. If you actually go into my Instagram, you'll see it. I post pictures all the time, and actually I stay there a lot. But there's a very special place for me in Portugal. As I got engaged with my wife and went to Portugal, and maybe it's because it's a sentimental value, but also uh, there's sentimental value, and it's also the place and the food. And one of my top places, and that does have sentimental value and also has to do with snowboarding, is a Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, of course.
That was our family vacation for 15 years straight. Like before, my sister got married and I got married and everything. We used to go there every year for about 15 years. And that's where I got into skiing and snowboarding. And I love the sport, but also, spending 15 days with our family. And that time my dad was hard on into working. So having 15 days with, a third of the day my dad working and then the 2 other thirds was awesome. It was like great family time.
And we're
So
actually
those two,
you brought up Portugal, which is funny because we're actually I'm going to a wedding in Portugal in February in
wow,
Lisbon.
Lisbon, beautiful. Yep.
And the fun thing is that we decided that, well, if you're flying over to Portugal or Europe, you're putting your foot on European soil. I mean, for 4 days, I'm gonna extend that, right? I'm there, right? So we decided that we're gonna fly out early and we're gonna do a week in Majorca.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
I've never
And then
been.
you never been to Majorca?
No, I have
Neither
friends
have
from there,
I.
but I've never been there.
Neither have
I hear
I.
it's
All I
beautiful.
know is a very German world over. It's a Spanish island, but it's a very German population that goes
I'm
there.
sure you're about to find out, my friend. You're about to find out.
But I'm going to find out. So we fly into Portugal, we spend a day, and then we fly to Majorca, and then we spend a week. We fly back from Majorca into Lisbon, and then we spend 4 days in Lisbon, Portugal. Probably bounce around. So if you've been to Lisbon, like you have to send me some really cool something to do in Lisbon so I can go there. And I have some old friends of mine. It's an old friend of mine. His daughter's getting married. And there's like 5 of us that are been connected for 40 years. And we all got the invites and we're all going. It's kind of like a reunion of us. So
That's
I would
awesome.
love to be able to sit back and go, oh, let me show you something to do in Portugal. Like, how the hell you know this? And I go, I tell you guys, the cigar industry tells you everything you need to know.
We're fucking connected. We're connected.
We're all connected, right? So, well, Enrique, this has been great. I'm not going to be able to get the PCA this year because I got other family things going on. It just hit at the wrong time. But I wish you a fantastic show. I just hope you rock it with these new limited exposures.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
And I know we didn't even talk about the fun you must have had in Hawaii. That's
that's another show.
That's another show. The No Joke Smoke, man. So
that's beautiful.
Absolutely,
Jimmie.
So,
I really appreciate you having me, man. It's been an awesome conversation, and I'm sure we'll have more of these. I'll make sure you get Lowe's Lounge Sales so you can give it a try. You're not going to be the show, so we'll make sure you get some.
I appreciate
so
that.
You can give those a smoke and enjoy them. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything. I mean,
it's been a pleasure reconnecting with you. I haven't talked to you in a long time because pandemic sucked, but
hey, we're back.
We're back. Are you going to be at
We're back and
TPE
connected.
also?
Yeah.
So I actually
PCA,
that's
PCA, TPE, and Dortmund.
the messed up part of TPE is that I come back. So I go to Majorca and then I go to Lisbon, and then we fly back from Lisbon on a Tuesday. I get back into Orlando at 6:30 at night on Tuesday, and I fly out at 6 o'clock in the morning to Vegas to TPE.
That's like my Tuesday night. What are you talking about?
That's what my wife thinks I'm going to kill myself. I said, yes, whatever.
I went to Hawaii for 4 days. I traveled a day. I went to No Joke Smoke and I came back. That's like,
just
and
an
you take a
airplane
computer,
ride.
you work from there. It is what it is.
It's just
It's
an airplane.
It's a global world, man. And you'll have fun at TPE. You do a lot of work. You still have fun at TPE. So I'm sure we'll connect there.
So, all right, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining. And again, have a great time at PCA. I look forward to the photos, and we'll catch you on the rebound.
Sure thing, brother.
All right, thank
Smoke
you.
it till the nub.
Smoking it right down to the nub.